Today we have joining us Nadia Vargas. Welcome, and thank you for joining me on this podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Something that I want to get us started off with is my first question. What's your story?
Okay, so I've been thinking about this all day. I obviously did my research and knew that you opened with that. I don't even know. I mean, I do know, but I think I've been debating like how much to share or like where to even begin, right? Like I feel like everyone's story can be like you can get the long version and their short version, or the medium version. So I think that's what I'm gonna do today.
Okay.
I feel like my story starts pretty young. I am one of 6 girls. I grew up in a Mexican American family, 2 divorced parents. Yeah. And I feel like that from a young age definitely impacted who I am today. I feel like there's so many layers of who I am. It was hard to decide like what to talk about or what to bring forward. But I feel like when I think about my identities and what is important when writing my stories is to like say that I'm Latina and to say that I'm part of a big family, and I have always like valued education and been lucky enough to receive an education. I went to school in New Orleans, and that was a lot of fun. I feel like I learned a lot about myself. And I feel like I'm definitely still writing my story. Like I feel like I'm in like chapter 3 of like hopefully like 25. So my story is definitely still evolving, but I think right now I am in an interesting point of my story in that I've had a lot of life changes really quickly. So I'm just learning about how I want to approach life really and like what I can do to take those lessons and like that upbringing that I have and like apply it as challenges keep being thrown my way.
Right. You said that there were major life changes that happened. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So I just came back. So I lived in Louisiana in New Orleans specifically, for all of college, except for the pandemic, of course. So I just moved back, or not just because it's been a while now, but I moved back last August. So I had been away from California for a long time, which I think was much needed. And then coming back, I feel like there was like a California version of me and there was like a Louisiana version of me. And so now I'm like merging the two. And then the other recent life change is not shortly or pretty shortly after I came back, I would say a couple months after, I shattered my elbow. So I've had a lot of trips and stays at the hospital. Wow. And lots of doctors, a whole slew of things. So I've been fortunate to have good health, and for my family to have good health. So this is really my first experience, or has been my first experience as a patient, and like really seeing the medical field from like the side of a patient. So that's been a whirlwind, to say the least.
Right. Would you say that's given you more perspective on how you should better approach the people that you work with?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I think that being, I'm not a provider just yet, but like that's the goal. But I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of providers, some great, some not so great. But I think empathy and compassion is something that I knew was important from the get-go. But I think something that I didn't realize is that the medical field is so coded and like almost like exclusive in ways that like you either know what's happening or you don't. And if you don't know, I think it's really easy to be taken advantage of or to like slip in the cracks. So I think learning to advocate for your patients or like giving them the space to like voice their concerns is like something that I'm definitely going to try and do, because it's not something that I thought I would have to do
Right.
until like I was on the flip side and I was like, oh, that's something that like I never really thought about, or not thought about, but like really saw the importance of, because like, you know, like the white coat effect, or you see a white coat or like a doctor's office and you get really nervous, and like all the questions you had or everything that you thought, you're just like blank.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to come up with those.
Yeah.
Right. I want to backtrack a little bit. You mentioned that you felt you had a different sense of self when you were in New Orleans versus when you were in California.
Yeah.
Could you tell me a little bit about the differences? Would the New Orleans side of you be more like a college type of like person? And what are you trying to integrate from both?
Yeah, for sure. I think at my core, my values have always stayed the same. And I think there's lots of layers as like to the California version of me. And I'm not saying that like everyone who lives in California is affected by this or thinks the same way I do, but I went to college and I realized, and just like being a woman and socialized in that way, I feel like plays into it. And you might see why in a second, but like I would like always have to be ready. Like my hair always had to be done, my makeup always had to be done. Like my friends would be like, Nadia, like we're just going to the dining hall, like you can just wear sweatpants. And I was like, I literally don't own sweatpants.
Wow.
Yeah. And so then I would steal their sweatpants all the time. And I was like, what the heck? Like you guys can, like, these have existed my whole life. Like I grew up wearing like yoga pants or like jogger. Like if they're joggers, they're like not comfortable. They're like for athletic performance. So it's like just like things like that. And in like stereotypically, like, you know, being so concerned about my appearance, or like I feel like always noticing about how I'm presenting and what I'm presenting, and being able to like code switch is something that I definitely got from California. And like because I feel like there's so many different spaces that you enter, or so many different people that you interact with, which I feel like has its advantages and disadvantages. But in Louisiana, I wouldn't say I was like more, I mean, it was college, so I definitely studied a lot. But I had my time to like, I feel like let go of all that pressure that like I feel like was like socially instilled in me. And I definitely think I realized that part of that is just me. Like I like, you know, like I think makeup is fun. I think like doing your hair can be fun. Like it's not that I don't like it, because I do, or else I wouldn't do it. But I think I learned like my value in a lot of ways that weren't just like how I present or like what I can do or what I can accomplish. And like that was definitely a lesson that took me all 4 years, if not, like I'm still learning to learn. But yeah, those are definitely some lessons that like I'm trying to carry with me and like remind myself on the daily.
Right. Right. Do you feel like that's a part of your experience growing up as a woman in California and like LA especially? Do you think that that's something that LA itself has instilled in you, or what do you think that's a result of?
Yeah, I think there's lots of, and yeah, there are lots of layers to it. I don't think it's just California, or like, I mean, obviously LA is unique in that way, but
Right.
I also think I realized just how materialistic LA can be when I was like all of my, or like my best friends are like very granola, like they, like their backyard is like the forest, and like they like wear Birkenstocks everywhere, and like I love that. I love that about them. I love that I mean, they're my best friends, but I realized that wasn't the norm, and I was like, wait, what? And I definitely do think it is partly an LA thing, like just like the list of like things that like I had already created in my head of like things that I should get done or need to do, like plastic surgery wise, or like ways I can change my outward appearance, have always been like, I feel like an easy like conversation. I feel like I've had a conversation with most of my friends, at least from LA, about like, oh, like what if you can get something done, like what would you get done? And then what would you get done next? And then what would you get done next? Right? Like, I don't know. I think especially also being a woman, it's instilled from a very young age that like how you present yourself matters.
Right.
And in some ways, like I do see that. Like I think that if you look put together, people take you more seriously. So I think that there's definitely advantages and disadvantages to like focusing on your appearance.
Mm-hmm. Right. Do you think our close proximity to Hollywood has a big influence on it?
I would say yes, and I feel like with the rise of like social media,
Yeah.
you don't really have to be in Hollywood to like make it big, but
Right.
yeah, like all of the TikTok stars or like the Instagram models like come here to take their pictures or like move here to like be in closer like contact with just like all of the brands. Like I mean, Los Angeles is a hub for so many things.
Mm-hmm.
But I also just think that like has something to say about like the time we were raised. Like I can see just like the beauty standards and like the way that we talk about how we present or the way that we talk about a lot of things change in this new generation, which I think is really cool.
Right. Going back to something that you said that you grew up in a big family, one of six. One of six. All daughters.
All daughters. Yeah.
All daughters. Wow.
Yeah, I'm number 3.
Number 3. Okay, so like almost in the middle.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, how do you think that has played an influence on your life growing up?
I mean, my family and my sisters are everything, right? They are my life in so many ways, if not my life, right? If it wasn't for my sisters or my family, I wouldn't be who I am today, which I think everyone could say. But yeah, I do everything for my family. Like they're my biggest inspiration, my like biggest supporters, my biggest critics at times for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way. I think I was talking to them about it recently, actually, in that like how unique sibling experiences are, even though we're raised by the same parents and born at different times, or like might have experienced different versions of our parents or each other at times. No one I feel like can relate to your childhood like your siblings can, and like that includes like all the trauma and all the fun and everything, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a really unique bond that I'm lucky to share.
Yeah, it's a very unique thing, like you said, especially because you have 5 other sisters who you share your life with, and I'm pretty sure that itself has like a huge impact on who you grow up to be and your worldviews, especially regarding your position like as a woman in this world, right? So I take it that you value family very much. Like it's a very important value in your life. So my next question is, how do you balance family with your career?
That's a good question. I'm still trying to figure that out myself. No, I think part of just who I am and some of my sisters as well, not all of them, but I can say myself in particular, like I like to be busy. I prefer to be busy, which maybe I like it, or maybe I just have become accustomed to it over the years that if I'm not, it feels wrong. But if I can do it and if I can find a way to do it all, like I will. So I don't know if it's about balance more so than just setting boundaries. But yeah, I think that's definitely a new chapter that I'm like having to open and write with them as well, because for so long my career and like my school was in a different state, so I didn't have to worry about like, oh, the family party this weekend or your cousin's wedding or the family like baby shower, right? That's not something that I could even entertain because I was a flight away. Like wasn't an option for me, which like was hard in a lot of ways, but it made it easy to focus on what I needed to do. So I don't know if I found balance, because I think that I just try and do it all. Really, my balance is not balance. It's just like energy drinks. That's it.
Just keep on going.
Yeah, just keep
keep
on going.
Wow. Wow. Do you have time to fit in dating in this?
Yeah, I was dating.
Uh-huh.
I have a partner now.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I somehow find a way. Uh he's super flexible and like willing to, I mean, I think with a partner, especially for me, like they have to be cool with my family, like happy with my
Of
family.
course. Of course.
So he's a trooper and he'll just like tag along and support in any way he can. Um and yeah, I think that's just about like squeezing in like time wherever you can, and being flexible and being willing to support your partner in what they need. And
Right.
so yeah, no,
Right.
he's pretty good about like, oh, like let's go on a date, and I'm like, okay, like we'll find time, like I'll like I won't be home on this day and it'll be fine. So yeah, somehow, I don't know.
This is a little bit of a personal question, but do you want to have like start your own family in the future, like have children of your own?
Yeah. I for sure want to have like children. Or yeah, I want to have a family. I'm excited. Not as big as my family.
Yeah.
Because my sisters will have kids of their own. So like adopted, like I'll be an aunt and then they can hang out and I don't have to have 6 kids of my own, because I feel like what's cool about a big family is it usually stays big if like everyone just but yeah, definitely want a family. I think that's super, it's something I'm working towards, but not anywhere in the near future.
Right. Right. You something that I'm curious about is how much of yourself you're willing to put into your family versus your career later down in the line. Because typically we know that a woman's fertility starts declining at the age of 30, past 30. So I think there comes a time, or at least in my belief, in a woman's life where they have to choose between a family and a career. And sometimes it's hard. It's very hard to juggle both of them. I don't know if you can answer now for yourself in the future, but do you think you'd be able to make a choice?
I think I have a plan. Plans change, obviously. But I don't plan on having any of my own children. I want to adopt my children. So, which doesn't say that like there isn't a timeline. Like I don't want to be like 60 and adopting children, but yeah, I definitely do think that's a factor. I mean, it's proven like how like women don't advance as much in the workplace because like they have to take maternity leave, or they get to, right? Like that's a beautiful experience, and I'm like, I think a magical one, I'm sure, but I think that it definitely like delays or pauses people's careers. And I know a lot of people, or a lot of my friends, like aren't considering that as an option at all because they know that, and for a lot of different reasons, right? Everyone's reason or plan is different, but yeah, I don't plan on biologically having my own children, but yeah, plans change. But that's my plan right now, and I'm happy with it. So we'll see.
Okay. Going back to something that you said that you like to keep yourself busy. Is there a particular reason for this?
I think that I have been surrounded by, or have been lucky to have commitments, whether it be family or school or extracurriculars. And I just feel my best when I feel like I'm doing something that's productive, or I mean, if not productive, like meaningful.
Right.
I feel like maybe it's also part of the way that I just grew up, but like I don't spend a lot of time like watching TV or like don't get me wrong, like obviously I have my days where I just need to like sit and rest and like watch a whole Netflix show in one day. But
Uh-huh.
um yeah, I don't know why I feel productive, and if I can feel productive like and I feel like I'm like they said contributing to something like other than myself or for people or things that I care about, like that's what I want to be doing. That's
Right.
how I want to spend my time.
Right. It's almost like um, putting in your effort towards the sense of achievement or contribution and
Mm-hmm.
goodwill towards others.
Yeah.
Yeah, sense of service.
Mm.
Mm, okay, so I have a question about um, dating.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this doesn't exactly apply to you so much because you're already dating right now.
Mm-hmm.
But like in the scenario that you were single,
Mm-hmm.
like how would you go about dating? Like I just want to know your thoughts on like online dating,
Mm.
um, the state of like dating right now in this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to hear your thoughts on it.
Oh, my thoughts on this day and age right now is like I think it's a very scary time, but
Mm-hmm.
also a very fun time. I think that it's really just about being emotionally aware of what you want and
Mm-hmm.
being honest about that. I think that dating apps can be I mean, I've never really been on them
Okay.
um for like longer than like a week, and then I'm like this isn't for me, and then I like delete it.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
But that was like in college. Yeah, I feel like I prefer to make my connections, I feel like, especially romantically, like in a more organic way that doesn't like mean to say that I don't think it works for some people because I'm sure, like, I know there's lots of people who it works for.
Mm-hmm.
I just think, yeah, like it's about like being honest and like communicating well with what you want. Like, I think people get really creative or like just really blunt in their like bios, like
Uh-huh.
only here for the weekend, like looking for a good time, that's it. Or like only serious relationships, right? Which I feel like is
Yeah.
good considering that there's so many like like a mix of like what people want and like what they're looking for. But I feel like what's important is that like you know what you're looking for. Because I feel like I know a lot of people, or not a lot of people. That makes me sound like I know, like I'm very popular. And I know some people who um would go on dating apps and present or say that they want whatever the other person wanted, which wasn't the
Mm-hmm.
case. Like they'd be like, "Oh, I just want a casual thing," and then they would say, "Oh yeah, me too," and then they would tell me this, and I would say like, "Why? Like that's not true. Like you very clearly like want a partner.
Right.
Uh, why are you lying to yourself?" And they'd be like, "No, that's not what I want." Like, so I think it's just about being honest with yourself and reflecting on that. But I think it could be whatever you want it to be, which is kind of cool.
Mm. So there's potential.
Yeah, there's potential. I like I said, it wasn't my thing. Didn't work for me.
Uh-huh.
Um, Not that I really gave it a chance, but yeah, I don't know. I it doesn't like I yeah, I don't know. I think also just the way that I feel like I find a partner or like me and my boyfriend met like we're friends previously, and I think it's a lot easier for me to connect with somebody
Mm.
when I know their character a little bit more. I think it's kind of hard to tell somebody's character on like three pictures on like
Right.
but that's what dating is for, right? Is to like figure someone out and like know about their personality and what they value and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes when you know the person like first, it like streamlines the process a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to spend my time like getting to know somebody if they're going to be a jerk, right? Like I'm not going to wait it
Right.
out to find out like a month or two later that they're a horrible person. Like
Yeah.
that's a waste of my time.
Yeah. Like why go through that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's not to say that like you wouldn't go through it and like find someone great or like have some funny stories, right? Because that's what dating is about,
Mhm.
and I think everyone should experience at some point. Um, because you got to have a couple stories at least. But yeah, I think it's just about if you want to put in the time and effort and energy.
So whether or not it's a priority in your life.
Yeah.
So whether or not you want to balance it out.
How do you feel about dating apps?
What do I feel about dating apps?
Are you on the dating apps? Wait, can you be on the dating apps?
Can I?
Yeah, like do you have a partner?
Oh no, I don't.
Okay, so you can.
I can. I was for a time, but
which ones? Can I ask you that?
Yeah, I
cut it out.
I was on Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge. I was on Hinge the most, just because like Tinder and Bumble, like they're just so much worse.
What do you mean worse? Like there's a ranking?
In terms of a relationship, like Hinge advertises itself as an app for relationships.
Yeah.
Whereas Tinder's like straight up just hookups.
Yeah.
Like pretty much.
No, yeah. I never really explored all the like variety of them, but like that was my understanding. And like Bumble's the one where like girls have to message the boys first.
Yeah.
What happens in like in homosexual relationships? Like who?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't lean that way, so I
feel like I never thought about that, but
yeah, I actually never thought about that either. Very interesting thought.
Okay, we gotta ask someone. We'll do a quick Google search after.
Yeah.
Okay, so you like them? They're not for you, or?
They're not for me.
Why?
Like you said, it's kind of hard to get to know someone online. And just the amount of work that it takes, because you have to filter through so much, and the people you're talking to are also filtering through so much. So it works against both ways. But also with the dating market, like there's
the dating market.
Yes, it's actually considered a market.
Oh, okay.
By some people, yeah. The way that it works statistically, actually, is that the top 20% of men get matched with like the top 80% of women, and then the bottom 80% of men get matched with the bottom 20% of women. So it's just very.
Does it mean like top like people who are like most commonly like swipe right on, like people like find them, like want to pursue them, right?
Yeah.
So, like, okay.
Yeah. Pretty much. So it's just like a very dominated market.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. If you think about it in terms of a market, like it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's just like the state of it, but also like it just didn't work out for me so much, because I wasn't having much success, first off, but also like.
Did you like go on dates, or?
I went on dates, but they weren't like good dates. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Like everyone has to have some stories.
Yeah. But yeah, I just decided, like, I also kind of am putting dating like on the side, so it's less of a priority for me right now. So just taking it as it is.
I feel like it's really cheesy to say, but like it'll find you when you're least expecting it. I feel like that's what happened to me.
Okay.
Yeah. So just like stop trying, and then it'll be fine.
That's also a question that I did have. Is like, how much should you try in order to make something happen versus how much should you wait? Because there's also a timeline, I feel, on dating, right?
I don't know about that. I feel like that's a concept that was like taught to us, like, right, like your clock is ticking, or like you gotta start a family, right, or like just like things like that. And I think especially with our generation, if not like generation before us, like everyone's delaying that. For a lot of reasons, I don't think it's easy now to support a family as quickly as it was in the past, right? Like you can just like get a college degree, get a good job, and then boom, buy a house, like, and then that's very like traditional, and like doesn't account for like all the other not traditional, which is like the norm. But I feel like that's what it was expected, and now I don't know about that. I feel like, to answer your original question, I think it's about like trying to be the best version of yourself, and like which like who do you want, what kind of partner do you want to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you want to show up for your partner, and how do you want to show up for yourself, right? How are you supposed to find a partner who loves you if you don't love yourself?
Right.
So I think it's about waiting until you know your worth, that you love yourself, and you're
Mm-hmm.
ready to like share that with somebody else.
Mm.
I think that there's like this like idea that finding a partner or finding someone to love you is gonna like fix all your, I think everyone has trauma. Maybe people will disagree with that, but like fix all your trauma or fix all your hurt. And
Mm-hmm.
like I don't think that's the case. I think
Right.
that it starts like inward. So I think it's about waiting until you feel ready.
Mm. So rather than going out and searching for someone that'll make you whole, becoming whole yourself, working on yourself and improving, and then becoming worthy of that person
Yeah,
to share
yeah.
that with.
And that isn't to say that I don't think that you should grow, or like you can't grow with a partner, because I totally think you can.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you're not pushing yourself to grow,
Yeah.
then it's like you don't want a partner, you want like a parent.
Right. Someone to take care of you.
Right.
Yeah. And that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Wow. What's the biggest thing that guys don't understand about girls?
Oh, that's so scary. I feel like I can't speak for all women. I don't know. I also like grew up surrounded by women, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I don't know, like what are some thoughts that like, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know what, I try not to surround myself, or not try not to, like obviously I've had my fair share of like interactions with like individuals who aren't the most considerate or like kind to women, but
Mm-hmm.
for the most part I don't stick around long enough to like
to find out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Are there any general things that men do that rub off wrong on you? Like, I know there's of course like very big things like, well then again, like being creepy, right, is a very common one. But then again, that's very hard to define, I feel.
Yeah. Have you like heard about the idea, and it's not like this, but everything is creepy unless you like them. Like he shows up to your house with flowers, creepy. You don't like them.
Yes, I have heard that.
You like them? So cute, right? You're telling all your friends about it.
Yeah.
They like blindfold you and take you on a date. So cute, so romantic if you like them. If not, like stalker.
Yeah.
Like kidnap vibe.
Yeah.
It's just about how you feel about the person. But I think something that usually, or like that I'm not a fan of, for me personally, is like I don't like when people or men in this question like feel they have the right to touch me or like touch my body,
right?
Because they're taking me on a date, right? Like you like, or because just in general, like I think it makes me really uncomfortable. I think, yeah.
Yeah, invading your private space.
Yeah, invading my space, or feeling like they're entitled to
like physical contact.
Yeah, physical contact at all, right? Like that's not even implying everything else. Physical contact because you've been talking to me for like X amount of time, or because we're in the same car together, right? Like I don't think that that's necessary.
Yeah.
Nor is it like deserving. Like I don't think that a certain amount of time equals you can touch.
Yeah. I understand where you're coming from. Something that I'm curious about though is like something like this, like physical touch, isn't something that is like explicitly talked about in a conversation, right? So at what point would a guy know that it's okay to do that? Because it's also a little bit weird for the guy to ask. Do you feel that way, or or would you prefer if a guy would ask before?
I feel like when I was younger, I would have said like, "Oh, it's weird if they ask," like, right? You're just supposed to know. But then I've realized like nobody's a mind reader. Like,
Right.
how are they supposed to know what you want or what you don't want? I think that like communication is really attractive if you're
Mhm.
both on the same page, right? And how are
Yeah.
you supposed to communicate well if you're not talking? That's not to say that body language or like doesn't speak volumes because it does,
Mhm.
but I think at times it's okay or it's better to make sure both people are comfortable
Right.
than to like because as much as like everyone likes to think or that they're the main character in their movie, like you are, right? But
Right.
your life isn't a movie. Like it's okay to like, or it can be. It's your movie, but it's okay to have like moments where it's like not a perfect movie scene, and you could be like, oh, like is this okay, or like, do you feel comfortable with this?
Mhm.
I don't think that you always have to do that because I think body language does speak volumes. Or like I think you could test it out in
Mm.
some ways
Mhm.
without asking if that's what you're worried about. But I'm in all favor of like
Open
open
communication.
communication.
Yeah.
Like let's talk about it. Like
Yeah. Let's figure it out.
let's figure it out.
Right. Right. Yeah. Um, Something that I'm curious about is it a red flag for you, or is it a bad sign if someone that you're romantically talking with has a best friend of the opposite gender?
I don't think so. I know
Okay.
that's probably an unpopular opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I think well, I mean, it depends if you're talking to them or if they're your partner or just I think it's all about trust and like how much you trust them. I
Mm-hmm.
also think like this is gonna sound silly, but like vibes are totally a thing, right? Like they give you a vibe that they're not just trying to be their friend, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
I think it's easy for friends to like turn a blind eye or to not see things,
Mm-hmm.
but I think there's certain occasions where like okay, it's clear that they like you and you're just avoiding it. Um, but I don't think so. I think that you can have friends of the opposite gender. I think if you are being shady about it, then
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think it's a red flag. But I feel like it's about being comfortable in your relationship and in yourself. And if you're not comfortable in your relationship, then like I can understand why that would make you nervous or like worried. Um, but also I feel like I don't want to compete with the best friend. So like if I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm competing, then like
It's not worth
then
it.
it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, then they can. I'm not gonna give up if I think it's worth fighting for, but I'm not gonna fight if it's clear that I'm already losing from the beginning.
Right. Right. Just come on as a second option, in a sense.
Right. Or it's just I mean, there has to be a reason why they're not. Like if that's what that you think is going on, then there
Mm-hmm.
has to be a reason why it's not going on.
Right.
If not, then I think you could totally be friends.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Does it does it change your opinion on someone if they have a lot of friends, or a majority of the friends are of the opposite gender?
Not really. I think part of it is just who you're surrounded by and who you're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if I grew up with all brothers, I'd probably feel more comfortable around boys.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I grew up with all sisters, so I
Yeah.
feel more comfortable, and I'm a girl, so I feel more comfortable with girls. But it's also like there's also in between, right? Like there's like people who are like gender nonconforming or non-binary, so like
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot in between, right? So
Yeah.
who am I to say like one is yeah, no, I think that as long as they have good values and your values align and you guys can be good friends to each other, like it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like gender shouldn't play a part in like how you show up as a friend.
Right. Right. Um, Switching topics a little bit here. What is something that you're currently in the process of learning?
Mm. Oh, so many things. I feel like I'm trying to teach myself like 5 lessons every day.
Hmm.
Um, I'm trying to learn how to give myself grace.
Mm,
I think like I talked about like always wanting to feel productive and yeah, productive and like I'm busy and I think with that like you can't as much as I try or people try to do it all, you can't.
mhm,
So you make mistakes because we're human or you like yeah, I think it's okay to give yourself grace and to like accept the fact that like you're going to make mistakes and that you're not always going to be productive and that you're not defined by how well you complete a task or don't.
mm,
Um and that plans change and that I feel like involves being kind to yourself.
mhm,
Um because I think or I know that I'm my like hardest critic and I think other people are the same way towards themselves. So
mhm.
just trying to be kind to myself.
So when you talk about grace, you're talking about being more easy on yourself, more forgiving for the mistakes that you make and what
Hmm.
goes on in your life.
Yeah, or just like not setting not being disappointed in myself if
Hmm.
I don't reach a goal or if I'm not where I think I should be. Um
Right. Do you think that you set high expectations for yourself?
I think at times I do.
Hmm.
Um I think there's just different aspects where sometimes I'm like I can be harder on myself in this way, but other times
Mm,
where I I've definitely realized that a lot of pressure that I feel I'm putting on myself. Because
mm,
I mean it comes I'm sure from internal and external factors, but at the end of the day like I'm the one who's putting that pressure on myself.
mm.
Yeah.
Would you say more so than external pressures and like outside um what's the word? Expectations?
Yeah, I feel like I want to yeah, I think from a young age I've um set high standards for myself. I think
Hmm.
that I am where I am because of the sacrifices of a lot of people and a lot of family members and
Right.
I don't want their sacrifices to go to waste. I don't want um people to see or people who might identify or feel somehow related to me, not like family wise, but like can identify with who I am and what I believe in and
Mhm.
feel like I didn't try my hardest to make way for them to enter whatever spaces that I'm in.
Um,
Does that make sense?
yes. So, would you say that you feel like you're a representation of your people as a Latina woman?
I think that I wear my identity proudly. I I think yeah, I know that I'm a reflection of Latinas, Mexicans, um, because that's who I am, right? Like I can't
Right.
hide. I mean, I can't hide it because I'm white passing, but but I I don't need to hide it. I don't want to hide it.
Yeah.
Um, I think that yeah, I want to wear it and I want to um break stereotypes or like non yeah, I would like to be a positive representation um and maybe change a couple of people's minds because everyone has biases.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah. What are you learning?
What am I learning?
Am I not allowed to ask you questions?
Oh
I just
no.
feel like
Oh no, no, I appreciate it. Something that I'm learning or in the process of learning is um how to better hold myself, how to I guess in a sense how to put on an appearance.
mm,
Not so much as like an outside appearance that isn't who I am,
mhm,
but how to better conduct myself in terms of like social interactions and the
Mm.
people that I interact with like on a daily basis, because also how to better like deal with my anxiety.
Mm.
Um, Meditation definitely plays a big part in that and dealing with that, but um, yeah, like little things,
Yeah, for
little
sure. I
things here
feel
and
like those
there.
are big things.
Yeah.
I mean, like, like, yeah, I feel like you don't have to like make it smaller than it is because those are big things. But also,
Mhm.
like, when you say like you want to like put on a, I don't remember the exact words you used, but like, do you mean like put on a,
Appearance.
yeah, an appearance? Like, do you mean like put on a front, like
No,
present as like,
so that's like not what I'm trying to do.
mm,
What I'm trying to do is um I'm trying to figure out a way to better hold myself,
okay,
if that makes sense. Because we know that body state mirrors your mental state, and your
okay,
mental state mirrors your physical state.
mm,
So there's a lot of research that shows that the way that you hold yourself, like if you hold like confident poses, you'll feel more
oh,
confident, right?
okay,
And
yeah,
psychologically. And I think that's something that is like really interesting,
yeah,
because um I've noticed this um especially with some of my friends,
mm,
like the way that they act and the way that they hold themselves, it it exudes confidence,
mm-hmm.
and you can feel it, like you can see it within their demeanor, and that's something that I'm trying to emulate.
What are some ways that you feel you could like, or maybe your friends like exude confidence? Like, is it the way that they stand? Is it the way that they like speak?
Hmm.
What are I feel like that's something I could learn as well. So I'm taking mental notes.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of things. It's pretty much all of those things and more.
Mm.
So it's like something that, do you know Jordan Peterson?
Yes, I was just listening to you and Chris talk about that.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so the actually the first chapter in one of his books
Mm,
is stand tall with your back straight.
mm,
And it pretty much he talks about the whole idea of how your posture and how you hold yourself can influence the way that you think and act. And so something that I try to do is like stand straight with my shoulders back.
mm.
Also, eye contact is something that is like definitely important. Um, Another thing that I'm trying to do less of is fidgeting.
Mm.
So I like to do a lot of things with my hands. It's like I like to
Yeah.
keep my hands occupied,
Wait,
right?
same. But like, can you control that though? Like, I feel like some of that is like,
Involuntary, right?
yeah, or I think your mind just needs stimulation in some ways, right? Like,
Yeah, but I'm thinking about it, and it's kind of, I read that it's kind of a reflection of your internal state.
hmm.
Yeah, and so that shows to other people, and then other people pick up on that.
Oh yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely. So it's something that I'm also trying to do less of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, something that I've especially tried to learn a lot of is like charisma.
Mm.
Because I interviewed Joshua Shangwei,
Mm.
and then we talked about charisma quite a bit. And what he said was the idea of putting yourself in the other person's shoes and trying to make them comfortable.
Mm.
Just a very interesting way to put it.
Yeah. I feel like, yeah, I feel like that's definitely something that I'm trying to, especially because I get social anxiety. So
Mhm.
I think that in situations where I can be the person that has the opportunity or like power to make someone comfortable,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do whatever I can, or
Yeah.
like what would I want or what would I need, right?
Mhm.
And I work with people on a daily, like I interact with patients and stuff.
Mhm.
And sometimes like it's a total miss. Like sometimes like people just don't want to talk to you. Like they're just in a bad mood or they're just like there to get in and out and they don't want to be there. But
Yeah.
other times like you could see like that layer like breaking or like their guard being let down and like they're like can breathe
Uh,
like, oh, you're cool, I'm cool, like
yeah.
it's gonna be okay. So I think if charisma is how you describe that,
Mhm.
then I think that's a
Oh, 100%.
cool thing to
100%.
adopt.
Yeah. I think it's a very important tool with in just the terms of like how you connect with someone.
Mhm.
Because basically what you described, I felt like was just connection. It's
Yeah.
like you feel a deeper level of connection beneath like surface interactions.
Mhm. Yeah. Or just like I think seeing people as people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, which is a connection, a very like basic one, but one that I feel has kind of been is not already just established. I don't think that everyone sees people as people,
Mhm.
um, which is sad, but a good realization, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I also feel like this kind of ties back to online dating because with online dating, you don't really feel like you're interacting with people,
Mm.
right? You're kind of just
I mean, I don't really
interacting.
have much experience online dating,
Okay.
but yeah,
Yeah.
I think that some people could probably argue for that.
Hmm. Yeah. At least from my experience, like I can say that at times it definitely doesn't feel like you're interacting with people.
Mm.
Just yeah.
I
It's hard
think
to
it's
describe.
like a lot easier or easier and harder in some ways to be organic or to be authentic when you're in person.
Mm,
You don't have time to like craft a perfect response or like
yeah.
to like look at their profile and see, oh, like what did they like or what are they interested in, right? Like you just
Yeah.
kind of gotta
Gotta go.
you gotta
Gotta
go. There's
go.
only so much time before it gets
Yeah.
awkward. So
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
think in that way it's less calculated
Mm,
in
right.
person or maybe not online at times
Right.
because like people wait like date. I mean that's why it didn't work for me is because like I would like go on for like 10 minutes then go on the next day and I like it wasn't a conversation, right? Like a conversation is supposed to be a back and forth
Hmm.
um in a short period of time and that's not.
That's true. That's true. Okay. Um, Last question
Oh.
before we end off here. What are you struggling with?
Mm. uh, Lots of things in some ways I think i I have I'm on the mend for sure, but I think um in some I don't know how do I phrase this. I'm working on giving myself grace because in a lot of ways I haven't been or really taking care of myself. Um I think that in some ways the stigma of like taking care of yourself or like um making time for you is seen as selfish um or sometimes it feels that way at least for me and I need to remind myself that it's okay to take time to myself and like just because I can do it and I can find a way to um hopefully do everything doesn't mean that I should because at the end of the day I'll probably be the one suffering. So I think it's about advocating for myself and what I need and being in tune with that. Um, and being okay with not knowing, what how are things going to play out.
Mhm.
I think that's really scary, but it's the truth of the matter is like you don't know.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I think it helps me to feel like I'm working towards that and like identifying that.
Mhm.
Um, what are you struggling with right now? I can't not ask you back.
um, I'm really questioning what I want out of life,
Mm,
if that makes sense. I'm I see different paths that I can take, but I'm questioning what I truly want for myself, right? And it's kind of hard